Hey friends, I just wrote a Twitter thread that I want to expand on in the video. The thread is about presenting a vector. What do I mean by presenting a vector? I first came up with this phrase, I think, when I saw a tweet by Paul Graham, and he was saying how his son was asking him to tell him bedtime stories, and he even said, I'll even give you the ideas. I'll tell you what the story should be about, and you tell me the story. And that amused me so much, and it reminds me of how the world is like. It made me think of so many other things that happened throughout my life, and just observing things happening, how lots of people have ideas, but very few people want to take responsibility for those ideas, right? Because implementation is hard, implementation is tedious. If you take responsibility for things, people are going to point at you, laugh at you, insult you. Like the burden of performance is on the person who is performing, right? And so there are all these people, and so the interesting thing is people always say things like, people talk about haters and critics, but just as there are haters and critics, there are also a lot of people who want to remain kind of anonymous, don't really want to get involved, don't really want to take center stage, but they want to help. There's a lot of people in the world who want to help, who have ideas, who want to support creators and support people who are doing stuff. And I think people who don't do stuff and are thinking of doing stuff underestimate the degree to which people who do stuff get a lot of help. Beyonce is a team effort. So she's excellent at what she does, and that's part of how she earned the right to have some of the most talented people in the world working for her. Challenging her with her choreography and set design and wardrobe and all those things. There are people who want to work for her, and they challenge her and she challenges them, and there's this whole symbiosis that happens. And that's part of why a lot of the best creators in the world, they seem so much more like stratospherically better than like normies or regular people or like hobbyists and stuff. It's not just that they are personally great. I mean, there's the gradient is of greatness, individual greatness. I think is, it's like if you look at sports, right, it's kind of linear-ish, but when you look at the creative domain, in my opinion, it looks way more than that. And that's because there's a lot of collaboration and compounding and all those things. Same for like companies, right? Like whether it's a software company or you're building a great product or whatever, you have really, things can be much better than other things because of those things. Anyway, vectors, positioning, like figuring out what it is that you want to do and what it is that you are doing and where you're going, right? So somebody asked me, how is this different than like differentiation in marketing? And you could say that differentiation is part of this. And I think the important thing I want to convey is the sense of direction, the sense that not only are you different from your peers or from your competitors in these current ways, but that's where you're going, that's where you want to go. The sense of vision, the sense of direction, the sense of purpose, like you're going on a journey. That's what really draws people to you. That's what makes people want to follow you and see where you're going. Because even hate follow, right? Like if they whether or not they believe you're going to make it, they just want to see. So I was rewatching Wrestling Isn't Wrestling, and it's a video about storytelling in the wrestling, and they were saying, we want to see people try, struggle, fail, triumph, and we just want to see that. And so if you're a creative, I believe, and again, you can be a creative without doing this, but I don't think it's a good idea in terms of like, if you want to survive in the market, if you want to build an audience, like you're going to have to need people who care about your stuff, right? And I don't mean like pandering to an audience that you don't want, and I don't mean selling out by diluting your work to something that it's not. I really mean figure out how to frame and position your work such that it reaches the people you want it to reach, and yeah, basically that. And so my motivation for making this video in particular was, so I was tweeting about how I'm doing pretty well for myself at this point. I've been writing for like 20 years ish, and I've gotten more and more successful over time. Like I've become a better writer, I've gotten a larger audience, I'm selling more books, everything's going well, and I anticipate that it will continue to go well for the continuing decades of my life. And I think a lot of this is that I'm a strategic player. I don't work super hard actually, but I work smart. and I get lucky quite a lot, and I'm good at getting lucky. And part of getting lucky is about being strategic and exposing yourself to chance, right? Not everything is so, like, where you're born is a lottery, like you can't choose that. But you know, where you choose to spend your time, that's something you can influence. You know, if you know that there's a cafe, like where do the people in your industry hang out socially, right? Like if you know that there's a coffee shop where near like a theater where like the screenwriters and whatever are going to be hanging out, like if you hang out there every day and you have your script prepared and you just you know all those things, eventually you'll get a chance, right? And it might take 10 years, whatever, but like you will get the chance in that coffee shop with your script on hand that you won't get sitting at home screwing around. And Twitter, by the way, is a fantastic place to have these interactions, which is why I recommend it so highly. But anyway, yeah, and so somebody was saying, you know, survivor bias is a thing. I've been doing my thing for 20 years and like the last 10 years or so haven't been that great. And you know, I don't wanna, it's a tricky thing, right? How do you talk about someone who has been struggling for a long time and not seeing success? And you look at their stuff and you're like, I have some ideas of how I could help, but I don't know if you want to receive the help, because you know, again, people get attached to their frames, they get attached to their experiences, their station in life. And there's this funny line in The Courage to Be Disliked, the book, where the guy says, you know, I could solve your problem, but I don't know if you'll want it solved. You know, it's like then you don't have the crutch that you use to keep yourself where you are. And but so you know, I'm making separate content for it so that I can gesture other people to it if they want. And it's about vectors. It's about knowing what you want and saying what you're going to do and making it easy for people to interface with your work. And then you got to go out and talk to people every day. You know, you got to have good reply game. You got to find people who are in your industry, in your field, make friends. You really can't, unless you're like incredibly exceptional, which I'm not, and I don't. You know, if you are, you shouldn't be listening. Why are you here anyway, right? If you're like truly, you know, stratospherically excellent, then you don't need to care so much maybe about these things. But I'm talking about like, you know, just regular players, people who are kind of smart, kind of hardworking, want to do well and trying to figure shit out. For those people, like, you can't afford to not make friends. You can't afford to not have relationships with people in your industry. You can't afford to not get out there, you know. And it's not just a matter of I've been busting my ass publishing for 20 years. That helps, you know. And what's his name? Steven Pressfield, he was saying when he was 38 or 34, he was in his 30s, and he hadn't published a book yet, and he would take another 20 years to publish his first book. You know, so you really have to persist. Noisy. The roads need cleaning. Anyway, what was I saying? Persist, do stuff. Have a sense of it's like, you know, audience, author fit, audience, creator fit. Get a sense of that. Look at the stuff that you've done so far and have a sense of occasion about it. You know, so if you've been working on something for 10 to 20 years, you have a body of work. What is your body of work? How do you talk about it to people? Where is your body of work going? You know, what is the experience that you create for these people? What are they going to feel when they see your stuff? It's really, you have to think about it in terms of the audience or the end user, you know. And you know, if you're an author, you're a reader first. If you're a playwright, you know, you are a theater goer first, right? And you have to think about how those people care, because you're doing a job ultimately, right? Like you're performing a role in human society. If you're a shaman, if you're a thespian, if you're a writer, whatever you are working for other people the same way if you were a blacksmith or if you're a baker. You know, you're making stuff for people. And you could be very good at what you make, but you still have to teach people how to appreciate what it is that you've made. And you have to be able to talk to them in a way that they understand. And if the stuff that you've made is great, but they can't see it, then you're not going to be rewarded for it. That sucks. But you can get better at that, and you can talk to people who can help you with these things. Anyway, I don't want this video to go on for too long. I guess I want to hear from people what they think, and then I might improve on it with subsequent videos. I'm still very woozy from like quitting smoking, so my brain doesn't follow my thoughts properly, but I'm just going to end this here. That